Today, I'm going to be walking you through the Showit interface and giving you a very bird's eye view of how to use this platform when you're building your website. So if we start in the top left corner here, you'll see that there are two tabs here. You have Site and then you have Page. So let's go through the Site tab first. You have your site settings, which if we open this, it has the name of your site, your custom domain that is connected, your fav icon, as well as your site language, and then your URLs down here at the bottom. If you flip over to your blog tab, if you have a blog connected, this is where that would be linked up right here. And then if you flip over to the third party tab here, this is where you can add your Google Analytics ID. I will go ahead and close that and go to the next thing here in the left-hand menu, which is the design settings. So here you can set your site-wide color palette. You can see if you click on any of these colors, you can edit any of those colors here, as well as the page fonts. So you can scroll through what each of the pieces of text look like on mobile versus desktop. If you click on the text, it will bring you to those specific settings here on the left-hand side. You can see that there's a lot of control that you can have over each of these pieces of text. And then if you go up to the top left here and switch over to the fonts tab, this is where you can add additional Google fonts to your website. So you would simply select the font that you want to use within this list here, and then you would add it to this list and then click save. Next up, we have our media library. So if I click on the media library here you can see all of the images that I have uploaded to the website. So you can click on, each image individually to add it to your website. You can also click this little link icon, and this will essentially copy the link of the photo URL. You can also use this to upload new photos and images to your library, but just by clicking this upload button, you can also just drag them into the folder as well. And right below that, you see your list of pages. Clearly, I have a lot of pages on my website. You may have more or less than this, but this is where you can click around to view the different pages of your website. So let's say, for example, I want to look at the Visionary Custom Website page. I just click on it in order to get to that page so that I can edit this page specifically. You can also click this little three dots icon here to duplicate a page if you want to use another page as a starting point. You can copy the page URL. There's a lot of other things that you can do here. Once you have your page selected within the Pages section, you can flip over to the Pages tab. And so this is all of the sections within this specific page. So you can see that we have the menu at the top, then we have the hero, and then we have the strategic branding section, website section, et cetera, et cetera. You'll notice that some of these have some diagonal lines running throughout them. This is essentially a global section. Showit calls them site canvases. And so what this means is, if I scroll down to this section, this is a section that I have created where I'm going to use this on multiple pages of my website. If you change something within your site canvas, that means it's going to change everywhere that it's used on the site. So for example, maybe I wanted to switch out one of these testimonials and put a new testimonial in here. Every page that has this testimonial section on it will get that change applied to it. So do be aware of that as you are making changes throughout your website. The other thing is that if you scroll down past the pages here, you'll see a list of site canvases in the bottom of this list. So you can always save sections. I often will use this like if I'm working on a different layout for a section, you can save it as a site canvas and always come back to it and add it to your page really, really easily. One other thing I wanted to show you within the page tab here, let's say we want to make another instance of this who I work with section. Essentially, you can just copy it and then you can also paste it below. And so essentially you'll see that this has duplicated that section here, which makes it really, really easy to copy and paste these page sections between different pages. It just makes your workflow a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. That pretty much wraps it up for the left side of the menu here. Let's work our way across the bottom. This is your account settings here. If you click on this, you can get to all of your different site designs. designs. If you have multiple, you can also add a new design to your library should you ever want to change templates. You can manage your account, manage your subscription, etc. And then we also have the different views that you're allowed within Showit. So I personally love this show mobile and desktop view just because I can see the entire website side by side, both on desktop and mobile. But if you prefer, you can also always use the mobile only view, or they have just the desktop view. But I would recommend using this for the bulk of the time, just because you can kind of compare the site on desktop versus mobile side by side. It's really, really helpful. A few different settings here within this little guidelines icon here. So you can show or hide canvas guidelines. You can add a mobile display, which shows the mobile phone here, which basically shows you like this is about the height of most mobile phones, so that it will show you what that looks like. You can also display the column guides. Just as I turn that on, you can see that it has displayed the grid over top of my design. You can also use the center guidelines if you wish. This basically just gives you centering guidelines within each section. I typically have that turned off. And then they also have a snapping feature here. So essentially, when you are moving things around your website like this, it would allow you to just snap something to the side so that it gets perfectly aligned. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back here. Next, we have the zoom function. So this is essentially going to allow you to zoom out, zoom in on your different views as you would need to. If you are on a Mac, you can also use the Command minus, Command plus on your keyboard. Okay, so next we have the different elements that you can add to your web pages. So on the text icon here, we have title, heading, subheading, and paragraph text, depending on what you want to add to the page. And then we also have different shapes. We have lines, icons, embed code, video gallery, as well as your social grid. All of these have different attributes that you can play with as you add them to the page, and different settings that you can play with. And then finally, we also have another button for our media library here. It just opens the same media library that we have access to up in the top left corner. Next, you have your undo button and redo buttons, just in case you make a mistake or you want to go back. And then you have all of your design specific elements. You will see that as you click around to the different pieces of your website, these attributes on the right-hand side will change out depending on what you click on. So if I click on the text, I may have different settings than if I click on an image. Let's say, for example, I wanted to change out the settings for this text block. You can see that I can manually adjust the size, the line height, the spacing, the letter case, the alignment. And it's also important to note that you can individually control these between desktop and mobile. So if you want them to display differently on mobile, you can just flip over to the mobile tab and you can individually control those things here. Moving on to the text properties, this is also where you will find the SEO header tag that is associated with specific pieces of text. We have a few different options here when it comes to H1, H2, etc. When it comes to size and position, this is something that is really, really helpful when you are trying to quickly center something on the page, or if you need it to start a specific height from the top of a section, you can use that Y setting here. And then when we go to click actions, let me go to something that's actually clickable on this page. So if I go to one of these buttons here, you can see that this button is linked to another page. So we have a lot of different options here for what we can link. We can link to another page, we can link to another canvas, to the top of the page, to a social link, to a specific URL, but it makes it really, really easy to set this up within the click actions. And then you have some other settings below, whether you want them to open that link in a new window. They also have this button for contact forms, etc. As far as transitions, this is essentially adding some animation to your page if you want something a little bit fancier on your website, as well as hover states. And then the effects window here also allows you to customize, depending on what element you are editing editing on your page. So you could have sharp edges, you can have rounded edges, you could make it a circle. It becomes really, really easy to edit the different elements on your page. Lastly, I want to mention the help sections down here at the bottom right. So they have access to the help docs right here. And then I ask the question icon here as well. Just in case you run up against something and show it and you cannot figure it out, their support team is really, really great. You can reach out to them and submit a ticket. And depending on when you submit a ticket, they usually get back to you within a few hours, but you can ask them anything you'd like and they will certainly help you out. Once you've made some changes on your website, you can always click this preview button to see how it's going to look. You can use the clickable links throughout the website just to make sure that everything is working exactly the way that you want. You can also view this on the mobile version as well. And let me just show you this. So for example, I can use the menu here to actually see what that's going to look like on somebody's phone. And once you are done editing your page, you can go ahead and click that publish button. It will give you a prompt that says, hey, are you sure that you want to publish your site? You will say yes. And once you hit that button, it will publish it onto your live site. Hopefully this video gave you a little background into how the Showit interface works. If you like this video, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.